Stun is too damn powerful.
What's going on, YouTube? It's Glenford here, and today we're gonna go over some of the changes that happened in Savage Worlds recently. So we're gonna just go through the errata, so this way you ain't gotta read it, because your boy's gonna read it for you. If staying up to date on Savage Worlds is something that you're into with minimal effort, feel free to like, subscribe, tap that notification bell at the bottom, and because your boy's not done yet. Okay, so I'm just gonna go through the list here. A lot of this is from the first errata, and I'm just gonna kind of brush over it if it doesn't require a whole lot of description. A lot of this is just cleaning things up in the book or just making it read a little bit better. At the very end, I'm gonna make sure I spend some time with stun, and also I'm gonna talk about conviction too, just in case that snuck by you a little bit. All right, first thing on the docket we have is they added the +1 skill modifier in the racial ability. So whenever you're creating a race, the example they give you is maybe if it's a race that has pheromones, for example, they may have a +1 of their persuasion right out the gate. Pretty sure that there is a race in Rifts, I wanna say. It's either Rifts or another sci-fi style game that has it, but it definitely exists somewhere. The point cost is half a point. Next we have the counterattack edge, and I think a lot of people are probably making this mental leap internally, but this way it's in the book for anybody who maybe weren't thinking of it that way. So they just replaced turn with round. It's pretty unlikely that you're going to get hit on your turn, but the round, that's what makes more sense. So this way you're getting those bonus free attacks if they're not meeting your parry. Next we have the marksman edge. This should be fine. It's in the errata. I have like the oldest book. I got it like through the Kickstarter, and it's word for word the same. I appreciate that they wanted to make sure, but you really shouldn't have to focus on that too much. Then we have the command edge. As they are attempting to bring stun down, command edge is also assisting with this as well, because now, in addition to helping with shaken, it's also helping allies or extras or wild cards, depending on where you have the edge built. They will also get a +1 to break out of stunned, which is huge. Then we have the Gadgeteer Edge. This is similar to counterattack, but maybe a little less obvious because it's paragraphs and people don't like to read. So yeah, it's the same thing, just cleaned up. They're letting you know how Gadgeteer works and just a little bit more concise. You can't swim hindrance summary. It's actually perfectly fine in the full description, but whenever you go to the summary, it doesn't match. So they just made that match. Suspicious hindrance summary. Same deal here as with can't swim. The summaries, for whatever reason, didn't match the full description. Now they do. In the gear section, there's an area for minefields, and by mistake, they had failure means you realize it. They replaced that with success. So you're going through the minefield, you make a notice roll, and if you succeed, you would notice the mine before it blows up, as you should. Some people may have made that mental leap as well, but just in case you didn't, that's fixed in the book too. The aim maneuver. So this has just been made more clear for anybody who maybe wanted to aim and then take the bonuses in the same round. That's not the case. You now know that you have to essentially line up this shot for an entire round, and then you get the bonuses on your next round. Area effect attacks. This is another one that's just cleaned up just to let you know that if you're in that template, you're getting hit. Everything in that template is getting hit. So they've just reworded it in a way so that nobody can kind of snake their way out of it if they want to, those snaky players. It also does ignore attack penalties such as speed or dodge. Experienced soldier, the stealth was increased. Great. The setback results on the creative combat chart. On this table, you'd be rolling on this table if you do a test and you succeed with a raise. You roll on the table, you get setback, which means a setback for the enemy, not you, because you're the winner here, not them. With the setback, it just lets you know that they will they will lose their next turn, not action, which is huge, especially if you've got multi-actions and stuff like that going on. Social conflicts under trials. It used to say at least 4 tokens. Now you're shooting for 3 tokens, so that's been made a little bit easier. Limitation under the powers section. This is actually a fun one. So if you're able to, you can modify your powers in Savage Worlds. So if you're actually able to get that power so that it would cost you 0 PPs, 0 power points, instead of how it was written previously, you just couldn't do it. End of story. Now you can try to do it. It'll still cost you 1 power point, which is essentially your mana pool, but you will get a +1 to your roll. So your spellcasting roll, your faith roll, whatever it might be. So if you're able to take a limitation on the power that you're reducing the range, or you're only taking a portion of that power, that'll reduce the power points and could actually end up making that roll that much better for you. Because a +1, it goes up to a maximum of +2, but any positives in Savage World is huge because you're shooting for a 4. Next, we're going to be talking about the limitations specifically. So there's 3 of them, right? Well, there's 2 of them right now, but they broke them out into 3. So first you've got your range, and they removed the part with self. So now it's only reducing it to touch, because now self has its own little section known as personal. There's now a personal limitation. I saw this in the Savage Worlds Dark Ages, the Deadlands Dark Ages. There is a paladin character where they have a revolver essentially in the Dark Ages, and they make a big deal about it and they make it sound like it's a strange weapon. Anyways, the paladin, at least in playtest, can use smite, but only on itself, and I believe only on the revolver. And then lastly, there's aspect. So you can only use 1 portion of the power. For example, sloth and speed. Sloth and speed. So normally you'd have the ability to make things slow or fast, but if you have aspect on it, you're only allowed to use 1 portion of it. Let's say sloth. So you're never able to actually make things faster. Boost lower traits. You're only able to lower traits, not boost them, because you've got aspect on it. Next, there's the object reading power. They actually changed the modifier on it. They removed the audible history modifier, and they replaced it with strong. And strong is basically just saying that it's a +2 power points, +2 PPs. You can basically see everything from the creation of that item moving forward if you succeed on that roll. So typically it would say the last 5 years, and then I think it's 100 years from the creation. So depending on how old the item is might depend on if you want to use that or not. Next we have the protection power. It does stack with other armor as normal. It used to say that it does not. Protection toughness modifier. It has been reduced. It used to be a +2. Now it's a +1, and I'm referring to the PPs. I don't know if I agree with this one because I feel like that's pretty strong. It's not a very expensive power. But yeah, for just 1 more PP, you can make it toughness instead of armor. Sweet. Okay, now we're getting into the juicy bits. So first, I'm going to talk about conviction. Woo! Woo! Conviction is cool if you're playing with that. I recommend it. I think it's a cool option. So first of all, you must empty your cup before I must fill your cup. Because first you must know how it works. If you are to know how it works now, first you must empty your cup. Yes, empty it. Empty the cup. Yes, continue. Empty the whole cup. The whole cup must be empty. Empty the cup. Yes, you have a very large cup. Yes, yes. This cup just keeps going. This quite. Maybe I should take the lid off. There's. So now that your cup is empty. Now that your cup is empty, Conviction, how it worked by default is you get this special token that looks a lot like a Benny, but it's not really a Benny because it goes from game to game. That's number one, similar to hero points in Mutants and Masterminds. You earn this for going through some type of great triumph or tragedy based on your character's story within the game, right? So you have this conviction, you can use it at any time. You used to only be able to have one at a time. And what it would do is it would add a D6 to all trait rolls, damage rolls, trait and damage rolls for that round for you, which is still, that's really good. This is what it does now. So now it still does those things, but here's the kicker. It doesn't go away until the beginning of your next turn, so that could play into, if you're getting hit by other enemies, that's number one. Number two, a Benny, a normal Benny can now be used if you're in combat, for example. I could also see this working in a dramatic task, social conflict, etc. So you could spend a Benny to make the effects continue for another round. So let's say you've got one conviction token, you've got 4 Bennies, and you want to have the most epic 4 rounds of combat in your entire life, and you're just leaving it all out there. Maybe shit's getting real out here. You can do that. You can use that additional D6 for everything you do for 4 rounds because you continue to spend those Bennies. But if there's ever a round where you don't keep it going, and let's say the GM gives you another Benny or somebody pulls a Joker, and then you say, I want to bring it back. No, because you've already let it lapse and it's gone. Really cool, really fun. Conviction, new conviction. That's not brand new. That's been around for a few months, but it definitely kind of snuck in there. And then last, but certainly not least, the new stun rule. Here's how the old version worked. Number 1, you would be distracted. You would fall prone or drop to your knees. You can't take actions or move. You don't count towards the gang up bonus. Attacks against you get the drop. At the start of your turn after you've been stunned, you're going to then make a vigor roll. On a success, you are revived out of stun, but you're now distracted and vulnerable. With a raise, you're revived with no ill effects. Now here is the new version. So, things that didn't really change with this, still distracted, still fall prone, or to your knees, GM's discretion. You still cannot move or take an action. You still do not count towards the gang up bonus. Now stunned is going to make you vulnerable until you have recovered. So instead of them getting the drop on you, which essentially it's gonna double the pain for you, now you're just vulnerable, which is much more reasonable and it would probably get abused a lot less in my games. To recover happens the same way. At the beginning of your next turn after you've been stunned, you're then going to make a vigor roll. Don't forget, in both instances here, you are distracted, so you're making this roll with a -2. With a success, you are no longer stunned, but you will be vulnerable until the end of your next turn. With a raise, you are vulnerable until the end of this turn. So unless somebody wants to interrupt you in the middle of your turn, or somebody has a Joker, which they'd still be interrupting you, just wouldn't have to do anything, they would just do it by default. Made in the shade, baby. You're out. So, yeah, stunned has definitely been brought down a notch. It's one of 2 conditions in Savage Worlds that are even moderately complicated. Stunned and the whole grappling bit. Really not that complicated. You just have to actually look at the book sometimes. But yeah, that is all I have for you, ladies and gents. If you want to stay up to date with Savage Worlds, whether it is rules, whether it is content, whether it's aids, supplements, maybe it's Savage Worlds Adventurers Guild. I'm your boy, Glenford, and I got your back. Don't forget, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I'm out!
Good morning. How's it going, bud? Having a good day? Yeah? contemplating some life things? I hear ya.